and X. And for the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. And that's just a sampling. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. For laptops, mobile phones, and tablets, download the Roku app. National Streaming Sports, live and on demand, sports talk for America.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now, with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities and shop live events.
So, the Mac and Jack Show, Wednesday edition today. Of course, I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, Jack Hirsch. We're going to get to a bunch of topics today, some NFL, some hopefully NBA, and we'll, of course, yesterday pitchers and the catchers started for the MLB, so everybody on Major League Baseball is kind of excited that we got that going on. So Jack, let's start with the NFL Combine, your favorite subject, right? It's going from February 27th to March 2nd in Indianapolis. It's open to the public. So what I am going to ask you is, if it was down in Florida right now, would you go check it out?
I'd check it out if I had nothing better to do. There are 3 quarterbacks who are available as free agents: Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson, and Trey Lance.
Right.
The last 2, Zach Wilson and Trey Lance, are creatures of the combines. That's why their stock went up so much. Zach Wilson was a number 2 overall choice based on what he did at the combines. Trey Lance's stock went up, and the 49ers gave up a couple of number 1 draft picks, amongst other things, just to flip-flop, to move up to get Trey Lance, who they thought would be their future QB, because they're creatures of the combines. And let's not get carried away. And let me tell you something. Zach Wilson, who played last year, part of the year on the Denver practice squad, the other part is a 3rd-string quarterback, and Trey Lance, who the Cowboys gave a 4th-round draft choice to the 49ers a couple of years ago, and the 49ers gave up on him and couldn't even wind up beating out Cooper Rush for the backup spot. They're going to move on from him as well. The only reason those guys are still in the league, Mac, is because they were drafted so highly. Zach Wilson, number 2 overall in the draft. Trey Lance, number 3 overall in the draft. If they were 6th-round draft choices, Mac, they'd be out of the league.
Yeah.
They wouldn't even have a roster spot. But when you're drafted so highly, you can kick around for a while before every team is giving up on you.
Well, yeah, as you were talking about the free agency, March 12th, it starts officially March 12th at 4 p.m. You forgot Jacob Brissett.
Jacoby Brissett. Yeah, listen, decent guy to have around as a backup. I'm fine with Jacoby Brissett if you're going to use him as a backup. And then depending on how he's playing, he could be a team's primary backup. I can live with him being the primary backup. And backup quarterbacks are very important in the NFL because we see the starters go down with injuries. So you're not going to get that much a better backup than a Jacoby Brissett. I'm fine with him as a backup. If you use him as a bridge quarterback, it's not an ideal situation as we saw at New England last year. Jacoby Brissett's been given opportunities to start in the league. Yep. You know, he's went from team to team to team. He was even given the starting job at Indianapolis. He didn't hold on to it. He was given the starting job last season for 1 year as a bridge quarterback while Drake May was supposed to sit. They came back to Drake May sooner than they wanted to because Jacoby Brissett was struggling. Not a bad backup, don't get me wrong. I saw what he did at Cleveland. He did some good things with the Browns as a backup when he had to fill in for Deshaun Watson. But please, I don't want to hear any team getting Jacoby Brissett and making him their starter. A team like the Raiders, if they can't draft Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, I don't want to see them get Jacoby Brissett because he has a link to the Patriots in the past when Tom Brady, was around.
Yeah. Also, wide receivers that are available: T. Higgins, Chris Godwin from Tampa Bay, Stephon Diggs, and Amari Cooper, Jack. One at a time. T. Higgins, big receiver, is go up and get that ball for you. He's like a big tight end almost running down the field. You think he stays with the Bengals, or do you think he moves on?
Great question. Joe Burrow is campaigning for him very hard, but they have to settle Jamar Chase's contract, the Bengals. And I don't think they can pay that type of money for two wide receivers. And unless it's a superstar wide receiver, you just can't give them that crazy big money. You can give it to Jamar Chase because he is a superstar wide receiver. T. Higgins isn't quite that. He's very good, but that's where it stops.
Yes. Chris Godwin with Tampa Bay. I mean, before he got hurt, unbelievable receiver. Baker's one of Baker's favorites. And, of course, do they want to break that up? Where he was throwing touchdowns to Godwin before he got hurt.
Yeah, he's been with Tampa Bay so long. It's hard to end certain relationships. It depends how much Chris Godwin wants to stay with the Buccaneers as well, whether they could have a middle ground. But keeping Godwin, with Evans and, as primary targets for Baker Mayfield would be the best situation in Tampa Bay. I have a feeling he does stay at Tampa Bay, that there will be a middle ground that works something out because I think he'll have more value to the Buccaneers than he would to any other team.
Tampa Bay is one of those teams, Jack. I know we've talked about this before. That's like stuck in one spot, right? They're always going to be like 8-9, 9-8, 8-1, or whatever. I don't think they'll ever get further than that unless they start. Maybe they got to get rid of Baker. Maybe they got to bring in a bigger quarterback. Maybe they got to bring in a rookie quarterback. Maybe they got to do something else than what they're doing right now, because right now they're just a 500 team, basically.
Mac, you're unbelievable. You're a piece of work, Mac. Get rid of Baker Mayfield. Get rid of this. Get rid of that. You're the same guy. When a baseball season starts, okay, Juan Soto's going to start the season 1 for 8 after 2 games, and you're going to say on the show, do you think the Mets regret the contract they gave Juan Soto? That's what I want to hear from you, Mac, after 2 games. Maybe if after 1 game, if he goes 0-4 and strikes out 3 times, that's what you're going to tell me. The Buccaneers have won the division the last 5 years. Last 5 years, they're in a very weak division. Okay, I'll grant you that, Mac. 1 year they won it when they were 8-9. Last year, I think they were 10-7 or 9-8 last year. Which
9-8.
9-8. I mean, in a weak division. Let's be honest about it. But you play to your schedule, you play, whatever. I'd rather have a team go 9-8, and like the Giants, your Giants, when they won the Super Bowl, they were 9-7. We don't think of them as a 9-7 team that just barely got in the playoffs, that struggled. We think of them as being Super Bowl champions. It's where you wind up at the end. And that's how I look at it. And Tampa's been successful, and they've been competitive in these playoff games. They haven't gotten blown out. They barely lost to the Commanders this year. Imagine had they won that game that they so easily could have won. Maybe they go into Detroit and they shock the Lions there. Now, all of a sudden in the NFC Championship game. The year before, last year, they beat the Philadelphia Eagles in the playoffs and then gave the Lions a competitive game in the playoffs. I think it's expectations, Mac. This situation's becoming a lot like the Pittsburgh Steelers. But the Pittsburgh Steelers fan base is getting extra antsy under Mike Tomlin. And all it's going to take at Pittsburgh for Mike Tomlin to go 7-10 next year, and you're going to hear all the calls to fire Mike Tomlin. Never mind that Mike Tomlin's a Super Bowl champion. He's already delivered a championship to the Steeler fan base. But they're antsy because they're just plain good. You know what they're like, Mac? The Steelers are like they're like a B-plus student who you know should get A grades. And you're like, come on, just do a little more. You know, and that's the case with the Buccaneers, but only one team can win it all end.
Well, the Steelers are in a lot tougher division than Tampa Bay is. I mean, I'll give the Steelers that credit. I don't know. I mean, you seem to like Baker. I think Baker's a heck of a leader, great competitor, makes mistakes and costs them games sometimes. And I think that I would want something else. Maybe I draft a quarterback to play under. I don't know, but I would be looking for something else.
I like Baker. I thought he played really well this past season. I really did. In the last couple of years since joining the Buccaneers, I mean, he convinced me he's their franchise quarterback. He has a body of work. You got to look. If you want to compare Baker Mayfield to Sam Darnold, they came out the same year in the draft. Baker Mayfield was the number 1 overall choice. Sam Darnold was number 3. But look at their body of work. Baker Mayfield had 2 good seasons when he was with the Browns. 2 out of 4 were good, where he really was a franchise quarterback. Sam Darnold's only had 1 year where he's looked like a franchise quarterback, and that was last year when he put it together. If you want to forget the last 2 games, which you could put it to the side if you want. And I just have a lot more. I have trust in Baker Mayfield. You know, in the 2 years he's been with Tampa Bay, how he's played, he's already established himself to me as a franchise quarterback. No need to look on. I mean, you could draft someone like a Quinn Ewers, but you really want him taking over for Baker Mayfield. And I'll be honest about it. If I were Tampa Bay and I had the first pick in the draft, and I could draft either Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, I'd stick with Baker Mayfield because I have my quarterback.
Okay. All right. Stephon Diggs, free agent this year, Jack. He always seems to get the 1 year, and then at the end of the year he falls off. And I don't know. Where does Stephon Diggs go? I
don't think anyone's going to give him the big money for a year unless they're really desperate, for a wide receiver. I mean, at Minnesota, he forced his way out. He got traded to Buffalo. At Buffalo, he was a little bit of a lightning rod. And we hear him always say, I'm not the type of person I'm portrayed. And maybe he's not. Maybe he's a good guy behind the scenes. I have no idea. But he's been a lightning rod at Minnesota and at Buffalo. And he went to Houston, and he kind of towed the line. But there wasn't enough of a body of work to test his character because he got injured during the season. How would he have reacted had he been there the whole season? Plus, you don't want to get a Stephon Diggs who tries to come in and be a leader. You really don't, because you have other leaders, you have your quarterbacks there, and something about his personality kind of just throws me off, the way he comes across in a certain way. But listen, he can help a team. I mean, certainly there are a lot of teams who would be better off having a Stephon Diggs, but not at the price that he's going to command. I mean, if his price is within reason, you could fit him into the salary cap, okay, then it's fine.
And your favorite receiver out there is Amari Cooper. You don't like him that much. You think he's good, very good. James thinks he's one of the best.
I think he's good. Amari Cooper hasn't proven himself to be an elite receiver. It just hasn't quite worked out, but he's good. He's good, and then you put him in the right situation, he'll certainly, help a team out there. But again, he's not a big money ticket to me. That's the problem involved. If there was no such thing as a salary cap and you didn't have to worry about maneuvering your books and how it could affect your team otherwise, fine, sign Amari Cooper. But, I look at very few receivers as being elite, truly elite. Jamar Chase is great. Justin Jefferson is great. I like Malik Neighbors a lot. Okay, I think Garrett Wilson was misused. He would be, outstanding, and a few others as well. But certain receivers who are pretty good, even like the CD Lambs, who I think are very, very good, I don't put them quite in the class of a Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase. I mean, it's all a matter of opinion.
Yeah, I agree. So the NFL draft will be at Lambeau Field this year. I don't know how they're going to do that, Jack. April 24th through the 26th.
They're going to have it out in the cold, the draft. Lambeau Field, that's absurd. I mean, it's a nice touch. You want to hold it at Green Bay. That's fine. Hold it in some auditorium somewhere. Hold it in some indoor arena or whatever. Don't hold it out in Lambeau Field. I mean, come on. But then again, at the end of April, I'm not sure what the weather is at the end of April, because this isn't quite football season. But even then, you want people sitting outside under, 50-degree weather. I mean, it's not that bad, but you want everyone to be comfortable who's there.
I would imagine that if there's as many people as there has been in the last couple NFL drafts, you're talking about 200,000, 500,000 people, they're selling tickets. So I would imagine there's going to be a lot of people standing, a lot of people excited, probably drinking brandy. That's something to keep you warm, and waiting for the draft. So I think it's pretty cool that they're having it in Lambeau Field.
The way the draft changed over the years, it is absolutely insane. I remember the 1986 draft. I was working in Manhattan. They had it at a hotel on a weekday. I had my lunch break. I just walked over, grabbed a seat, a nice seat in the balcony, and a small little thing. And I'm sitting there in the first round of the draft, listening to selections, just showed up out of nowhere and just grabbed the seat and then left, and there were some other available seats. What it's turned into one of the great spectacles in sports. Yeah. And I admit I'm a little different from you. You have no use for all these mock drafts, it seems. You look at them, but you kind of just brush it to the side. To me, it's entertaining. Even though they're going to change 40 times between what they are now and the draft itself, and a lot of it's going to be inaccurate, I kind of enjoy seeing it, I like how it could unfold in this way and that way. And teams are going to come up, someone sometimes comes up with a shocker and they come up with a surprise out of nowhere, but they're fun to look at. And I kind of get a good feel for some of these players and, that what should be done, what shouldn't be done. And this year's a lot of fun because there are two players to me who are going to be, future Hall of Famers if they stay healthy. Abdul Carter, I keep saying the next Sam Darnold, and Travis Hunter, the next Charles Woodson. So you have a chance to draft Sam Darnold and Charles Woodson this year. So you're going to take a chance in drafting one of the quarterbacks, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, who might be iffy.
Well, I mean, the last mock draft I saw, which I do look at them, I think they're foolish, but they had Giants taking Cam Ward. I don't think the Giants take Cam. I think the Giants will probably take Shedeur Sanders. And that's one of the places he wanted to go. He's got the giant cleats. I think the Giants need a They need a quarterback, and this quarterback class stinks. I admit it, but I think Shedeur Sanders is the best of the stinky quarterback class. So I think they will do that.
Well, I think Shedeur Sanders is good. That's myself, regardless of the class. I think he's good. He's going to be a good quarterback. You know, you say something interesting. Shedeur Sanders seems to be campaigning a bit to be a Giant. He wants to be a Giant. You wonder how persuasive that's going to be with the Giant front office picking him. You know, and Brian DeBall is going to have some influence over Joe Shine because they're very close. They're intertwined, the two of them. They came from Buffalo together. Right. And I kind of wonder if they like Cam Ward slightly more, but they still like Shedeur Sanders, and they're campaigning how badly he wants to be a Giant. But the Giants have this conservative, business-like nature, and the flamboyancy of a Shedeur Sanders and his dad, Dion, the X Factor in the background. You kind of wonder, does that influence, a team? Once in a while it could. You don't want the pain in the butt. Deion Sanders making remarks now and then, how they're using his son, this and that. Sometimes you don't want to deal with something like that. You don't want to deal with that type of noise. So I kind of wonder, but I'm also thinking of the Giants situation is different, where they might do something a little, when I said different, out of the box, because Joe Shine and Brian DeBall might be thinking they absolutely got to win now and improve this season. Otherwise, they're going to lose their jobs. So can you see them mortgaging a little bit of their future to win now? They'll figure, let's survive now and we'll worry about it later.
And the great thing of having a young quarterback, that gives you an extra year, Jack. I mean, you saw what happened with Eberflus, right? I mean, it's going to give you listen, he's a young quarterback. He's getting there. We're working with him. As long as there's improvement. If they improve next year and they got that young quarterback, they can use that as an excuse of staying another year.
Yeah, it depends on John Mara. But let's be honest, the Giant front office was dreadful, the job they did, in the offseason, getting the team ready. I mean, what progress have they made since Joe Shine and Brian DeBall have gotten there? Let's forget one moment this losing, the Saquon Barkley fiasco and all, which is a public relations nightmare. It's absolutely insane. Can you imagine, Mac? Just imagine 1 second, Saquon Barkley was never a Giant. He came from another team to the Eagles. Let's make believe he was a free agent and he signed with the Giants right now. The Giants would be throwing a parade. We got Saquon Barkley from the Eagles. They would be insanely happy. They'd say Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl. The Giant fans would be downright giddy. And now, they had him. But Xavier McKinney, he goes to the Packers, safety. They went different. They have a decision to make with Thibodeau. Do you give him the money? Or you don't give him the money. To me, he's been unbalanced. You could say he's been maybe a good player. You could say that. Okay, fine. Say Thibodeau has been a good player since he's been at the Giants, but he hasn't been a very good player. That's safe to say. You can say he's good. Now, you got to look at his upside going forward. Is he going to put it together? If Thibodeau's going to be better, you can give him the money. Do you really trust that he's going to be better, or he's just going to be the same? I mean, I can't trust he's going to be better after 4 years.
it would depend on what he wants, right? What he agrees to in a contract. I mean, I ain't going to give him Brian Burns money because Brian Burns played better than he did last year. Thibodeau was hurt a little bit. But Thibodeau does have those games, Jack. Once in a while, he pops up and he has those games that can help you win. So, I mean, if the contract was right, if the money was right, I'd sign him. If not, then
well, it's anyone. I'll take him for the Jets, Thibodeau, if the money's right. I mean, he can help teams. And you're right. But what would you rather have? A player who shows up every few games and plays a great game, is all over the field, and then the next 2-3 games he's missing in action. You don't even know he's on the field.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the problem involved. You kind of want consistency, a guy there who's there week in, week out, not only a guy who has the peaks and valleys.
Yeah, that makes sense. So the Jets go at 7. The Patriots, maybe we'll talk about with Keith on Friday if he comes in.
Patriots go 4th. They're probably going to trade down, Mac. That's the feeling.
You think?
Unless they go for Will Campbell, the offensive lineman. They're going to want to protect Drake May. Right. I could see that, but I get the feeling the Patriots trade down where they can get, a couple of offensive linemen.
What happens if Travis Hunter's there?
That's going to be pretty interesting, Mac, because if the quarterbacks, the first 3 picks, if the quarterbacks, both quarterbacks, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders off the board, you got Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter at the pick.
Yeah.
And then you're going to bypass one of them and trade down for depth. But I'm sure there's a team that would want to trade up to get one of them and would give you maybe even an extra number 1 draft choice, a 2 and a 4 in addition to flip-flopping. I don't know what it's going to be. But in the Patriots at number 4, keep in mind if Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward on the board, a team that needs a quarterback, maybe they make a deal. Maybe hypothetically, I don't think New England would trade with the Jets, but maybe the Jets see Shedeur Sanders is available at number 4 when the Patriots go. And they say to New England, we're going to give you our 7th, we'll flip-flop our 7th overall pick for your 4th, and we'll give you a number 2 draft choice this year and a number 3 next year. Did the Patriots do that? I don't know.
Yeah, and they definitely need wide receiver help too. They need line and wide receiver help over there. They got their weapons aren't that good over there right now.
They definitely need a wide receiver, absolutely, and they're going to address it one way or the other. I don't know. They're going to get one of the receivers you mentioned, who's on one of the veteran receivers, and Amari Cooper leaving Buffalo, Chris Godwin leaving the Buccaneers, Stephon Diggs leaving the Texans. Whether they get one of them or they look towards the draft. And I hope the Jets don't part with Garrett Wilson, though. I hope that's not the case. Yeah, but if they did, what value? Because he's due to get paid. So New England wouldn't give the number 4 overall pick for Garrett Wilson only because because of the hefty financial price tag they'd have to deal with Garrett Wilson.
So let's talk about your Jets at number 7, Jack. Rodgers may not be there. May need a quarterback. Really, I mean, depends on who stays and who leaves. If they can keep everybody there and Rodgers leaves, you're going to need a quarterback.
Well, one mock draft had the Jets in the 2nd round going at number 50, taking Quinn Ewers. That's risky to have that type of strategy because there's a good chance Quinn Ewers won't be there at number 50. I mean, he might go in. He's projected not to go in the 1st round, but I could see him going early in the 2nd round, maybe even at some point in the 1st round. Who knows? So if the Jets, you could draft a position player, whoever it might be, at number 7, and then think, I'm going to draft Quinn Ewers in the 2nd round. Or you could see how the draft is unfolding. early in the second round, and you can flip-flop with a team and give them your third round selection so you can move up and grab Quinn Ewers. I like Quinn Ewers. I think he can be the guy. And I'm okay with this strategy with the Jets. If they drafted Quinn Ewers in the second round, you could start Tyrod Taylor as your bridge quarterback, as long as, because everyone would know Quinn Ewers is going to step in at some point, if not next year, then the following year. I'm okay with that type of strategy. But then again, there's the X factor. Everyone's saying Aaron Rodgers is gone. That the reports are the Jets have moved on from Aaron Rodgers. Reports are. We haven't heard the Jets say anything. We haven't heard Rodgers say anything. Rodgers would normally come up with a statement thanking Jet fans for his time in New York. He hasn't done that. The Jets haven't issued a statement thanking Rodgers for his effort and good luck to him. There's something going on, Mac, behind the scenes. I think it's a live Rodgers coming back, and I think Rodgers is going to give in to the Jet demands. Like he was saying, he's not going to do the Pat McAfee show anymore, and he's going to attend all OTAs or all mandatory, or even ones that aren't mandatory practices or whatever. He's going to do whatever the coaching staff wants. And I think the coaching staff might give him some small concessions, like allow him to keep Devontae Adams. So why not? Devontae Adams is a future Hall of Famer. I mean, the Jets would be doing themselves a favor by allowing him to keep Devontae Adams. But I also think they're going to let him know Garrett Wilson's got to be the main guy, okay? And that's a sensitive issue with Aaron Rodgers because him and Devontae Adams can still be highly successful, but the Jets, they don't want to lose Garrett Wilson. So I think they're navigating through this, but I think it's alive, Mac. We've heard reports he's moved on, but not from the Jets and Rodgers himself.
Yes, not yet anyway. So let's I'll get to the Philadelphia item I want to talk to you, but first, Las Vegas, according to Ian Rappaport, Max Crosby and Micah Parsons might not be with their teams next year. The contracts are going to be huge, the money they want, new coaching staffs. I mean, these are two great players, Jack. They are impact players, maybe two of the best. So if you're the owner or GM of either one of these teams, do you keep them and try to work with them, or do you just say, hey, listen, guys, if you can make more money somewhere else, go do it?
First off, don't listen to the nonsense about Micah Parsons. I mean, Brian Schottenheimer their new coach has zero say as far as Micah Parsons' status, whether he's coming back to the Cowboys. Zero say, Mac. He's not even got, I even doubt if he's had a discussion with Jerry Jones on that. It's strictly going to be a Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones decision on Micah Parsons. And Brian Schottenheimer's new there. I mean, he's lucky he has the job there. He's worthy of having it because of his resume as an assistant. Don't get me wrong, but he doesn't have any impact. This isn't Ben Johnson, who came to the Bears, who came there under the condition he could run things his way, that he has the ultimate say. Brian Schottenheimer didn't say to Jerry Jones, I have to have the ultimate say. Brian Schottenheimer's thing is, thanks, boss, thanks, boss, thanks, boss. And then he might say to Jerry Jones, I said, okay, then I give my opinion on this. And Jerry Jones might say, okay, you can speak now. It's that type of setting. I'm being a little sarcastic in the way I'm putting it, of course.
Yeah.
But Micah Parsons is going to be back with the Cowboys. Max Crosby, I'm not as sure, because you have the spec that Tom Brady hanging over the room, who understands what the Raiders need, what they don't need. Yeah, Pete Carroll, more so, and Mark Davis, their owner. And Max Crosby was unhappy last year. And we don't know Max Crosby himself. How bad does he want to be a Raider? How bad did the Raiders want him? I don't have a good read on the Max Crosby situation. Or, how badly the Raiders want to keep him, if at all at this point. But he is a major impact player. But if you're another team, what's it worth to you to sign Max Crosby? Is it worth 2 number 1 draft choices? If you're going later in the draft, it might be. If you could fit him in, which I doubt that could be done, and you're the Philadelphia Eagles, you're picking very low in the draft. If you're the Chiefs, we'll give up 2 number 1s for Max Crosby because we're picking low in the draft anyway. But maybe the Chiefs are a bad example. They desperately have to address their offensive line.
Yeah, they do. Eagles will be looking for a new offensive coordinator after, of course, Kellen Moore went to New Orleans. Now, our friend, the Philly sports guy, has a way of predicting weird stuff. First, he said Tony Romo was going to be offensive coordinator, of the Cowboys. Then now he says, well, Frank Wright will be the offensive coordinator of the Eagles. Well, they already got a passing coordinator there, associate head coach, who's been there for 4 years. His name is Kevin Patullo. He's assistant head coach. So, I mean, he's been there. He's worked with Sirianni. He's worked with the offense. So I would imagine that they're going to stay in-house and hire their passing coordinator.
Yeah, but listen, you got to give Pags a pass. It made a lot of sense, Frank, right? Because he was with the Eagles before as the offensive coordinator. So it would be a question of him coming back to the Eagles. And he was successful as the offensive coordinator before. That's why he got the Indianapolis Colts head coaching position. And,
right.
Former NFL quarterback. It made a lot of sense thinking that Frank Reich would come back. But I guess it's about relationships, like you always say. If Sirianni has, good relationship with guys working under him, other coaches, it finally gets to the point where you have a quarterback coach. He's been waiting for years for an opportunity to be upgraded. Yeah, you upgrade him to an offensive coordinator if you feel he's really ready to do the job. So you don't dip into your past to a Frank Reich. If you have the guys on your staff already, you promote from within. That's the best way of doing things.
If you're an owner, Jack, and would you offer almost anything to get Howie Roseman on your team as a GM? I've never heard of anybody actually going after Howie Roseman. And, of course, he's the one that architects, builds these teams year after year, 1-year contracts, veterans re-signing with him. I mean, if I'm the owner of any team out there, I want to get him on my staff. I want him to be my GM.
Yeah, but football, I agree with you, but football's tough. When you put it all together, you can go on a roll like the Eagles are, the Chiefs have been, you go on that roll. Well, like New England was for 2 decades, which was phenomenal. Even the years they didn't get to the Super Bowl, they'd be in the playoffs and they would be taking a serious run at getting to the Super Bowl. But once it falls apart, I shouldn't say falls apart, but once the players get older and you haven't quite transitioned and you have to kind of start over, it's so difficult. And New England currently is an example. After having all that success, it's so hard to get back to where you were. When New England had the 2 decades of basic dominance, a bad season would be getting bumped out in the playoffs. Losing in the AFC Championship game would be a disappointing season. Imagine that. Now, if the Patriots make the playoffs and lose in the first round, it's considered a successful season, that they're on the right track. But Howie Roseman, has really been outstanding. But sometimes he could put everything in place perfectly, and it doesn't happen. I mean, look at the Jets. Joe Douglas addressed every position well. Their defense was supposedly elite. They addressed their offensive line, made a bunch of moves. The running backs, the receivers, they got the quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, and nothing worked.
Yeah, but I mean, there was, I don't want to say shenanigans. I mean, listen, yeah, he went and got who Aaron Rodgers on offense wanted. And defensively, he fires Salah, and then the Jets defense falls off. So I mean,
they were 2-3. It happens with players on the field. There were no shenanigans with Rodgers that bothered the Jets in the locker room. You didn't hear one peep from a player, even anonymously, who criticized Rodgers. He was liked within the locker room. I mean, that people don't want to accept that. I mean, the media didn't like him. He didn't play well a lot of the times, Rodgers. I don't care what his stats were. He didn't play well. The defense gave up at times as well during the season, and they had leads and chances, and they couldn't close out games. The NFL is about closing out games. It's always about closing out games, and the Jets were awful at closing out games. But you're right. Howie Roseman's been outstanding. Mac, I want to say something. The Philadelphia fans, they did something. They emptied a truck or something that was delivering things, and they vandalized it. You know, those people should be put in jail, Mac. They really should. And they should get every single name and find a way to ban them from the stadium for life, even though it didn't happen in the stadium. I'm sick of stuff like that, Mac. That's not celebrating. You know what to me, I wish they would cancel the parade in Philadelphia because of security concerns, because the way the fans behave. And these are fans anywhere. I'm just mentioning the Philadelphia fans because of how they act. That to me isn't celebrating. Those are being pure hoodlums. And that to me is a violent crime. And if there's any threat to this stuff like that going on while the parade is happening, cancel the darn parade. No celebration because of that type of fan behavior. You want to know something? And let all the fans know we're not having that parade because of fans like that who did so and so. I'd love for those fans' names to get listed who did that vandalism. And the other Eagle fans know they're not getting the parade because of them. I think those fans who vandalized it would have to leave town.
Well, I think they have video of the truck, so I imagine they could get their names if they haven't already. I imagine they will be charged with something. But it wasn't just the truck, Jack. I mean, they vandalized the whole town after the win. So I mean,
I want to have the book thrown at them, Mac. I want the book thrown at them.
Yeah.
The book thrown at them. I mean, I don't want to see their lives ruin what they did. A lot of times it's giddy, it's stupid. They're just acting dumb. They don't realize what they're doing. But I'm going to tell you something. You do something like that and you're causing property damage. Number one, I would have them pay the exact amount of property damage immediately. And then you know what I would do? I would put them under 6 months of house arrest. House arrest. 6 months. They can't leave their house. Okay? Oh, I'll do it another way. I would have them, the next football season would start. They would have to be on the house arrest the whole football season. They can't leave, their homes then. Something like that. I mean.
And I normally say, oh, there's fans like that everywhere. But it just seems in Philadelphia, it's just extra. There's just more going on. I mean, I've never heard that from the Giants fans when they won. I've never heard that from the Jets fans when they had a good season or won a big. I've never heard that happen in New York. And New York is, just as tough city as Philadelphia is. So, I mean,
the Jets are going to win the Super Bowl. What am I going to do? Go to my neighborhood store, in my neighborhood downtown where my neighborhood is, and I'm going to smash some windows? I'm going to smash windows. I'm going to, a milk delivery truck, I'm going to take the milk out and throw it in the streets. Come on.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Jack, Kelsey said he's going to play a few more years, which would make him like 50. But they lost the Super Bowl. They didn't do the three-peat. He looked really dejected. He has a podcast with his brother. I could imagine he could get into broadcasting also if he wanted to. So does Kelsey retire?
I would advise him to, not for the reasons people think. Football's a tough game. Two sports, football and boxing, that's head trauma. There are effects later on. You don't want to take extra blows. You have a life later on. And, even listening to Herm Edwards talking about this once, at CTE, you can't play too long. And these guys are playing, some of them too long, like Kelsey. There's no need to, but I understand there's nothing like being on top. Angelo Dundee once said that to me as far as boxers go. You can't tell them to retire. There's nothing like the feeling of being on top when you're boxing. I mean, you can't duplicate that feeling in retirement. But let's say Kelsey is going to come back to play. His motivation is going to be twofold. He's going to want to get back to being the same player he was. But when you're in your mid-30s, Mac, it doesn't mean Kelsey can't still be a very good tight end. I'll give him that benefit of the doubt. But can he regain being one of the greatest tight ends to ever play the game at that age? Probably not, but he'd probably be a good tight end. Can the Chiefs make another run at the Super Bowl? I mean, absolutely. But the Chiefs have lost their favorite status. They have no better chance of getting to the Super Bowl than the Ravens or the Buffalo Bills next year. Maybe another, or the Bengals for that matter.
Agree.
They're just one of several teams who can get there. And maybe they'll do it again. It's too early to predict. But the motivation factor, the Chiefs are not going to go into training camp with more motivation next season than they had this season. Now, some people say, the way they lost, they're going to be more motivated than ever before. No, they're not. They lost the chance to three-peat. They're never going to get that back, Mac. They're never going to get that back. So don't tell me they're going to be more motivated than ever. Look, the Dallas Cowboy team in the 90s, they won 3 Super Bowls in 4 years. So the Chiefs basically would just be matching that. And it's fantastic what the Chiefs have been doing. They've been this era's NFL dynasty, basically. And maybe you could say Philadelphia as well. If Philadelphia wins the Super Bowl next year, you could compare them and the Chiefs in the short term what both have done. But it's going, the motivation factor, too. I mean, I know they'll want some redemption the way the Super Bowl played out, but at Kelsey's age, how badly does he want to come back? And it's hard. He just finished the Super Bowl. It's hard to walk away from it as well. But I would tell him to do it. But I'm sure he's talked to his brother Jason. Jason retired this season, and the Eagles won the Super Bowl. And of course, had Jason Kelsey known the Eagles would have won the Super Bowl, he probably would have hung around an extra year.
He might have. And Patrick Mahomes said he's not going to try to persuade him to stay like he did, like he probably would have. So let's get into the little NBA news. Luka Doncic scores 14 points after playing twice in 2 months. And the Lakers, of course, won that game. So a lot of people were saying, the Lakers aren't going to be good this year. Come on, you got Luka Doncic.
Lakers were good before Luka. They were playing well this year, very well.
Yeah, but they just added a star.
What Luka's doing? They beat the Utah Jazz a game, and you're getting all excited.
They just added a star for years to come.
Luka's no. It was a good deal for the Lakers because Lakers have always been about having star players going back from West Baylor, Chamberlain, Magic, Shaq, Kobe, LeBron. And having Luka means they're going to have a star player going forward for years to come. Even if the team doesn't win, they'll have kind of like a face of the franchise.
Yes. Anthony Davis to miss multiple weeks with left abductor strain. So
Yeah.
right away. I mean,
Well, the timing is bad, terrible timing. Anthony Davis comes back for his first game. He's playing his first game with the Mavs. The Mav fans loved him because he showed all this energy. He waved to the crowd. He was sensational. He was sensational. And the Mav fans go, all right, and they were letting Anthony Davis know it's not you that we're upset about. We were upset about losing Luka, but we love having you. Welcome, Anthony Davis, even though we're still very upset about losing Luka. But now Anthony Davis exits. He's not going to be playing for weeks. And this allows all the Luka talk to go on in Dallas, and especially if Luka starts lighting it up for LA and Anthony Davis is on injured reserve. If Anthony Davis is playing all along, fine. That's going to quiet the Dallas fan base that's upset. But they'll say, hey, Anthony Davis has been great for us, and we're winning, if they were winning.
Yes. Embiid may need surgery after the season. Is the Embiid-led Sixers experiment over, Jack?
It's not an experiment. Embiid's with them his whole career. It's not an experiment, Matt. But yes, I agree with what
to bring him to the championship, Jack.
I agree with what you're saying in theory. There are two ways to go right now for the Sixers. You either build around Embiid, see who you could get, and take a run at the championship, or you move on from him and get a whole bunch of draft picks, young players or whatever, for a team that's in a win-now mode, who absolutely, would love Joel Embiid, because Joel Embiid could be a major difference maker, because when healthy, he's one of the best players in the NBA. They tried to build around Embiid with Paul George to get him, Maxey, Embiid, a big three and all that. That hasn't worked.
No.
It hasn't worked, and Embiid's been hurt in part. That's the reason why. I don't think building with Embiid, getting, another player, seeing who's available, that's not going to do it. I think it's move on from Embiid. I think the Philadelphia Sixer fan base lacks energy right now. According to Pags, there's not much excitement about the Sixers in Philadelphia. There's obviously, they're wild about the Eagles. They're excited about the Phillies. The Sixers are so. So I think it's a good opportunity to get a bunch of, young players and draft choices and take it from there.
Yeah. UB Brown retires from broadcasting, Jack. One of the best in basketball.
Yeah, age 91. Retiring phenomenal. I wasn't the biggest UB Brown fan when he was a coach. I just didn't like his personality. You're yelling, you're tearing down players and all. And I just wasn't a fan of him as a coach. But as an analyst, he would explain the game very carefully. And he had a great love of the game. He hired a lot of good assistant coaches when he was a head coach, like Rick Pitino. Was a protege of his, for example, Mike Fratello, so he was pretty good in that sense, UB Brown. But, he had some success when he was coach of the Atlanta Hawks, that coming to the Knicks, no, not quite, and the way he would berate players, how, and his attitude was, let's see how much harassment a player can get. It can take. I never cared for that coaching style, but as an analyst, he was first rate, and the way he would explain the game, to do it till age 91, he was, a real inspiration, as an analyst. Then he was a good coach. Don't get me wrong. He was a good head coach on balance, in the NBA, even though I wasn't the biggest fan of his style.
So yesterday's pitchers and catchers, that means that the baseball season, it's not officially started, but, training camp is coming. Players are coming. Of course, the biggest news is still the Dodgers, who are like plus 275 to win the World Series this year.
Yeah.
The Yankees and I think the Braves are the next two. I think the Yankees have a pretty good pitching staff. I think Bellinger is going to help him, or Bollinger is going to help him out a little bit.
Bellinger.
Yeah, but I don't know who's going to beat the Dodgers, Jack. I mean,
you're not going to replace Juan Soto of the Yankees. I don't want to hear that the Yankee lineup is better without Juan Soto. It's absolutely not. Juan Soto was phenomenal. But you have guys who could pick up the slack. Anthony Volpe is ready to take a surge and improve. He's been good. He's been getting better and better. I think Anthony Volpe could take the next step, okay? I think Austin Wells, their catcher, can take the next step. I think these guys, young players, have upside. They're going to be better. I think at first base still, Rizzo's out there, and I had a little brain Josh Donaldson, not Josh Donaldson. They got rid of him a couple of years ago. I'm having a brain. Paul Goldschmidt, their first baseman that they got from the Cardinals. I know. I was having like a brain freeze. How can I say Josh Donaldson? He retired a year and a half ago or whatever. Chaz Chisholm, playing second base, a more natural position. The only area that they're a little weak in position-wise would be at third base. DJ LeMayo, Oswaldo Cabrera, platooning there. DJ LeMayo has 2 years left on his contract at $15 million a year, so you can't just ignore him. Okay, so he's going to be given an opportunity with Cabrera. If they can just be average platooning, that's going to be fine. And, Jason Dominguez, their rookie is going to be given an opportunity. We'll see how good a prospect he is. If he flames out, there's going to be some problems. The Yanks moved on from Alex Verdejo, but say what you want about him. He didn't give you much offensively, but he did have a good glove in the outfield.
I think you're right, and he did have his moments during the playoffs too, where he did drive in some runs in that. So he not a great batter by any means. He said more of a defender. I like Bellinger in center field and Judge going back to right. I think that's gonna be strong. Dominguez, I'm not too sure of, Jack.
Yeah, you're not too what?
Too sure of him as far as being a fielder and being a good hitter. Dominguez.
Oh, Dominguez, I'm not too sure of him either. He's a bit shaky defensively. So let's see how he improves. He doesn't improve. But, you heard that about Juan Soto, that he wasn't good defensively. He wasn't bad to me. I didn't think he was bad, but I guess I'm in the minority.
Yeah, he was. He missed some plays he should have made. And like, I guess everybody does, but it just seemed like in the big moments he would make an error. You know what I mean? And
so let me ask you this, Mac. If that's the case, and I know we have very little time, why the big fuss to give Juan Soto that incredible amount of money if he's just giving you a great bat? If he's just so defensively, and he's not that good of a base runner, even though he has speed.
Right.
What are you paying him strictly for his bat, it would seem?
And his name. Cohen's
name
got
value, what it means to a franchise. Never underestimate that. Never underestimate value to a franchise. That is important.
Yes, definitely. So, folks, we're at the top of the hour. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for the views. Possible shares later if you can. Oh, by the way, our website has hit over 5,000 visitors. So, nessp.info. A lot of information on the shows, sports, news, all that stuff. So check it out when you get a shot. Everybody have a great day, and we'll see you live